Good morning, members of the Transportation Policy Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions you may have. If you parked in the parking garage, a validation stamp is available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchase a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff, and we will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair and members. I will go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. David Barry. Councilmember Butler.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Caputi.
Here.
Thank you. Doug DeCluson.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Gallego. Thank you. Councilmember Garland. Thank you. Mayor Giles. Thank you. John Graham.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Haney.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Manfredi. Jen Daniels. Mayor Osborne.
Present.
Thank you. Tyler Pace. Mayor Peterson.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Pizzillo.
Present.
Thank you. Mark Reardon.
Present.
Thank you. Supervisor Sellers.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Wires.
I'm here.
Thank you. Chair Wheatley.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember White. Mayor Wilson. Is there anyone that I missed? Chair, we have quorum.
Thank you. If you would please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Our next item is call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not action. 15 minutes will be provided for a call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. Please note that we do have a new podium located adjacent to the audience seating from which members of the public are invited to provide their comments. We have received one request to speak for call to the audience, and that is Ms. Diane Barker. If you would please come to the podium and state your name. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good morning. Mayor Wheatley, chairwoman of beautiful Queen Creek. And I was just thinking, it's been a while, probably before you got out there, that I went to Queen Creek with a real estate man when property was, you could find property for $6,000 an acre. And you just had to watch out that if in fact it had didn't have the seizures, but they were just, ADOT was just putting in Hunt Highway and dirt was flying. So I had an opportunity, and again, I live downtown. My name's Diane Barker. I've lived in the Valley over half of my life, and I've used transit. So I do feel that multimodal can work. And it's really up to the individual to choose a trip rather than the so-called favorite single occupancy vehicle. But the city of Phoenix had a meeting today in their transportation, and they're going to put for the agenda item coming up this copper card, which is the new fare. There was a gentleman that spoke before me, and he said that he was against the fact that the fare was doubling, which was a surprise to me. You have a ticket office downstairs, and that's where I got my card. And when I come here and use transit, which I do, I'm able to get because most people here probably get free parking. I'm able to get a bus card, but I take that down there and they'll apply it to my copper card. And I've used this and it's very easy. You just put it up against a monitor, whether it's a light rail platform or on the bus, and it won't take out for me because I've lived long enough in this system to qualify for reduced fare, $2 any place. I bet you there's no place, possibly in the whole world, that you can go as far in the valley for as little. Now, if you're not on a senior fare, then it's double. So I haven't, $4 would be the max that they would be taking out. So I think that's something to look into. And also, we have a signage problem that was discussed too we're going to have like 3 or 4 light rails in a core area of downtown, which is Central and First Avenue, one going to the northwest, one coming from the south and headed East Valley at the proposed light rail extension. And they're starting to run the light rail on an experiment before it's implemented next year from South Phoenix. And people down there that aren't regular users are confused.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Barker. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Chair. We received one online written comment for the call to the audience, which has been provided to the members in advance of the meeting for consideration.
Excellent. Thank you. We will move on to item number 5, which is items proposed for consent or consent agenda. Items 5A through 5E are on the consent agenda. Do any members of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Seeing and hearing none. Prior to the approval of the consent agenda, there's an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items on the consent agenda. I have received no requests for the consent agenda. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the consent agenda?
Thank you, Chair. We have received no online written comments for the consent agenda or any other items on today's agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion by Mayor Wires, and there is a second by Mayor Osborne. And we will have those participating in the meeting online take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras, unmuting their audio. We do need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will call only on those virtual participants who did not turn on their cameras. So members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those in line online? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Excellent. Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, if you could take a roll call of the members participating virtually who didn't turn on their cameras, and it looks like we have everyone. So thank you. Appreciated. That does pass unanimously. We will move on to items proposed to be heard. Item number 6, the Freeway Lifecycle Program Minor Improvements Funding Request, US 60 Grand Avenue at Loop Next Phase Interim Improvements. This item is on the agenda for action and will be presented, let's see here, by staff. So
Tim Stroh, Major Projects Manager.
thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Transportation Policy Committee. This item is on your agenda for action to approve funding for the US 60 Grand Avenue Next Phase Interim Improvements. So every year in May, MAG staff updates the Freeway Lifecycle Program and brings those recommendations through the MAG committee process for approval. The fiscal year 2025 FLCP includes $10 million for minor improvements to the freeway system. This is a great program to help the region stay flexible in addressing the region's needs, identifying capacity and safety improvements along the freeway corridor, allows us to react very quickly to those when those issues do pop up. Before I discuss the proposed projects that we're bringing forward to you today, I want to provide a little history on this section of roadway. There's been a lot going on in the last few years, so I want to make sure the committee's fully aware before we go forward with the presentation. So the area that we're discussing to make these proposed improvements is a 2/3 of a mile section of US 60 Grand Avenue between 163rd Avenue and the Loop 303. For those of you who are not familiar with this part of the region, it's up in the Northwest Valley. Earlier this year, actually, this committee received a presentation on Northwest Valley transportation issues that are impacting this area. Brad Williams, the project manager, came and did a presentation. The section of roadway that we're discussing today is highlighted in red. This area has been growing at a rapid pace over the last 10, 15 years. The US 60 provides key access to the city of Surprise. It actually bisects the city, which creates some challenges, especially when it comes to emergency response times, when there's accidents along the roadway, but also this is a fast growing part of the valley. It also is a major freight corridor, provides key access to Wickenburg, Kingman up in the Northwest, and also to Las Vegas. So this part of the valley was always not growing at an extremely rapid pace. Back in 2010, there was about 5,000 people. But as you look forward in 2020, we hit about 37,000, 2030, 107,000, and by 2050, we're looking at 250,000 people. Some of the issues with this fast growth is there's some transportation challenges in this area. Grand Avenue, if the residents live along Grand Avenue along this corridor, you have one option to enter the central part of Phoenix, and that's getting on Grand Avenue and connecting to Loop 303. If you live in the eastern part, in the city of Peoria or Eastern Surprise, you have additional options. You have, as you can see on this map, there's interchanges spaced every 1 to 2 miles along this corridor. But there's a large gap in that. You see that 4-mile section right there. Residents, if they can travel to the east and go out of their way about 5 miles. So the majority of the folks enter Grand Avenue and go through the Loop 303 interchange. So let's take a look at some of the travel times in this area, some of the issues that residents are dealing with. The majority of the growth is occurring along 163rd Avenue you see up there. It takes residents almost 10 minutes to get through that light in the morning. That's during the AM peak hour. 10 minutes, a long time. Once they get on Grand Avenue, they have an additional 2.6 minutes to go before they get to Loop 303, over 12 minutes. I've actually talked to a lot of residents in the area about their kids that have to get bused out of that area to different schools. Their kids are late every single day by 20 to 30 minutes because they get stuck in traffic. So this is an illustration that I wanted to show the audience. So this is westbound Grand Avenue, looking up towards, like if you're traveling to Wickenburg, you can see traffic backed up from 163rd Avenue on Grand Avenue. You can also see traffic's backed up on 163rd Avenue trying to get on US 60 Grand Avenue. Residents trying to make that left onto Grand is a predominant movement. There's about 30,000 vehicles a day that use 163rd Avenue and about 60,000 that use Grand Avenue. This is another viewpoint of the Grand Avenue from 163rd Avenue. This photo was taken by a drone, and you can see that it was not during the peak hour in the morning, but you can still see traffic backing up. One of the issues along this corridor is you have the BNSF rail line. You can see on the left side of the screen. So you can imagine with all that traffic coming in the AM peak hour, you have a train running through there a few times a day. Well, traffic backs up significantly. You can see all those cars backed up in that right turn lane. It spills over into the through traffic, which creates a bottleneck, and it continues to back up all the way to the 303 interchange. So this issue is nothing new to the region. ADOT received a state appropriation back in 2022 to do a feasibility study to take a look at identifying some near-term improvements for this area. They did a great job of analyzing some quick improvements to help provide relief to the residents in that area. The slide on the left is the improvements that have been completed and are currently under construction at 163rd Avenue. The lines highlighted in blue were completed last December. The ones in yellow are currently under construction today. We talked about that heavy left turn movement. Well, ADOT's constructing a third. We're going to have a triple lefts at 163rd Avenue. They're also putting an additional through lane in the eastbound direction. And they're also adding more capacity to that right turn lane off of Grand Avenue on 163rd Avenue, help cut back on the traffic spilling into the main through lanes. On the right side of your screen, you can see that currently under construction today, ADOT's adding a triple left at the northbound off-ramp on Grand Avenue and adding additional right turn lane. So while these studies were going on, we've been talking with the City of Surprise, Peoria, ADOT, McDOT, and a few other stakeholders about the transportation needs in this area. So a study was kicked off earlier this year by MAG in cooperation with our member agencies to take a look at Grand Avenue. We knew that more needed to be done besides the near-term improvements being completed by ADOT. So right now we're doing a corridor study on Grand Avenue from Loop 303 to State Route 74. In addition to looking at different types of improvements on Grand Avenue, we're also looking at the surrounding arterial system, looking at the circulation, where residents come and go, where businesses are going to be located in the future, and how do they get access to Loop 303 besides going down Grand Avenue. So this study kicked off early this year, and we anticipate wrapping it up late next fall. As part of that study, we actually held our first kickoff meeting in August of this year. We held this meeting on 163rd Avenue at Asante Prep, where all the traffic impacts are occurring, where the majority of the growth is occurring in this corridor. We wanted to talk to those residents to see what's happening on the ground. So we met with them. We had about 175 to 200 people in attendance. It was very well attended, and we really wanted to sit down. We wanted to let the residents know, hey, we've heard what's going on in this area. They've been very vocal. We gave them an update on the ADOT improvements in the area. We gave them an update on what the study looks like and what the process is. But we truly wanted to understand what would they experience on a daily basis. They're stuck in this traffic 15 minutes in the morning to go 2/3 of a mile. They know better than anybody what's happening on the ground. But we also wanted to understand, what would they propose in this area? What improvements do they see that would help benefit the commuters in this corridor? So we collected a ton of comments. And I want to take a moment to thank staff from City of Surprise, Peoria, McDOT, and ADOT. We had almost 200 people at this meeting, and we had about 22 staff members, including Councilmember Haney, attend to help talk to the residents. And so we would not be successful if it wasn't there for their participation. So thank you for that. So at the end of that meeting, we pulled our consultant team together. We looked at all the comments we received from the residents. We asked our consultant team, say, hey, take a look at these, see if they're valid, but also look into the analysis and see what else can we do to help provide relief to these residents. So now I'm going to walk through 5 different recommendations that we're proposing for funding today. The first one is at Grand Avenue, Loop 303 southbound, the on-ramp. So we're going to add a second right turn lane. There's a lot of demand at this movement. So we're going to add another right turn lane to increase capacity and improve operational efficiency at this intersection. In addition to that same on-ramp, we're going to extend the Gore Point. So right now you have that single lane that turns onto the on-ramp. It goes from 3 lanes to 2 lanes to 1 lane really quickly, allowing residents to merge safely on the 303. We're going to extend the 2-lane section about 200 to 300 feet to give the additional vehicles that are now going to be entering that ramp, because that second right turn lane, more time to merge in and get safely on the 303. The next one is at an unsignalized intersection west of 163rd Avenue. So this T intersection serves a frontage road between Deer Valley and 163rd Avenue. Right now you have cars going 55 miles an hour down Grand Avenue, and you have cars wanting to get off at this location, or they're getting on, which creates a safety issue. A lot of residents, this was a comment from the residents, we've received tons of them saying safety issues, a lot of accidents occurring in this area, and they were right. So what we're proposing to do is adding a decel and acceleration lane at this location so residents can get on and off safely in this section of roadway. The next improvement is adding a 3rd left turn lane on the southbound Loop 303 off-ramp. Right now there's 2 lanes. The great thing about this is we have 3 receiving lanes on the other end. This allows vehicles getting off the freeway to safely line up to get off on 163rd Avenue, so we can start stacking cars up and get them in the right turning movements. The final improvement that we're proposing is adding a 4th through lane, westbound direction and eastbound direction at 163rd Avenue, to add more capacity to this intersection and help improve operations. And we're going to walk through here in a second what those how those improvements affect those intersections. So if this project is approved today and goes to regional council approval as well, we'll be able to work with our engineering team to really look at, in the design phase, how these, we're pushing 4 lanes through an intersection. It's going to have to narrow down to 2 lanes later on down the facility. So during design, we'll be able to address that. So quickly, let's go through and look at the AM peak hour delay by approach. The graphic on the left are the numbers that I showed you earlier today, where it takes 9.8 minutes for those people in the southbound direction to get through that intersection. The slide in the middle is still the 2023 baseline condition after the ADOT improvements are completed. You can see we go from 9.8 minutes with no improvements down to 2 minutes. That's fantastic, right? Good use of money. You can see other improvements as well. Other improvements have reduced the cycle times. But on the far right graphic, you'll see 2030 after the ADOT improvements are completed. And you can see the numbers starting to increase, right? Why? Because the area is still growing at a rapid pace. There's a lot of folks still developing it off 163rd Avenue. There's a lot of businesses come online. BNSF has a major intermodal facility being planned out towards Whitman. So this area is still a fast-growing region. So this next slide, again, the left side, 2023 before improvements, 2030 in the middle after ADOT improvements, and then 2030 after our proposed improvements are completed. You can see that we start to bring those numbers back down again, especially at that southbound direction at 163rd Avenue. But I also want to point out, if you look at the eastbound movement, under the 2030 ADOT, the middle graphic is 7.3 minutes. It goes down to 2.3 minutes. Also, the northbound ramps, 11 minutes down to 4.5 minutes. So we're putting a dent in the congestion in this area. But it's great that ADOT's making these improvements, that we're here today to propose the 5 proposed projects for us to help decrease congestion in this area. It's not the ultimate fix, though. This is meant to help relieve congestion in the short term until we can get projects in Prop 479 in place. So we have a lot of plans in this area, especially with the US 60 Loop 303 Ultimate System Interchange in the future, improvements to US 60 163rd Avenue, looking at a grade separation at that area. We're also looking right now, currently under study, is looking for another access point for residents who want to get on the Loop 303. You see that big circle right there, the Loop 303 traffic interchange between US 60 and El Mirage. So we have a lot of plans in place. These proposed projects will hopefully help get us to that point. So if this study is, or if these proposed projects are approved today and by Regional Council, the ADOT design team will be able to get started immediately at the end of October, and they anticipate going to construction next spring, early summer of next year. Madam Chair, that completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, too, if I could just add a couple more points or underscore a few more points. First of all, the funding source that's being requested is the minor improvements allocation as part of the freeway program. If you recall, there's actually quite a robust discussion here at TPC last spring talking about the value of that funding source and really positioning the region to be able to react and respond. And so one of the outcomes of that was actually to increase the annual allocation from 5 million to 10 million, which enables us to be more responsive and to put improvements like this forward. And then the second point I just want to underscore, emphasize, simply put, there would be no way to be able to move this quickly, to be able to be this responsive, absent the dedicated half-cent sales tax. And so just reliant on existing revenue streams, federal funding streams, and the small portion of state funding that's available, there would be no way to be able to go out there and relieve some of this congestion. So I just want to emphasize the importance of the half-cent sales tax to be able to address these problems.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Appreciate that presentation, Tim, and open it up for comments, questions. Councilmember Haney, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellent presentation. So I actually represent this area, and I can tell you, I know some folks might be familiar with the area, some might not. Growing up in Surprise, this area was almost not even thought of becoming this in the future. It was very much so folks that moved out there to try to kind of escape the growth. And then very quickly, it just exploded with growth. And with that, a lot of folks almost felt like they were being forgotten, and the infrastructure continued to be stressed. There didn't seem to be any type of relief. And thanks to the MAG transportation team, our city staff, folks are really starting to feel heard. And a lot of the things that you see proposed in this presentation are a direct result, one, from the effort that you all have made to sitting down and actually listening to the residents, but also the proactiveness of trying to see what can we do in the interim while we work to get those long-term solutions, many of which are programmed in the Prop 479. And a couple of points I did want to hit is there's been so much discussion on, traffic is normal throughout the valley. And for this specific area, and you hit on it earlier, is we just started school, and a lot of the folks who have kids in the area, their kids are getting bused south of 163rd and Grand. And I got phone calls almost every day of how their kids are consistently late 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And it's not the fault of the school district. It's just because of that traffic flow. And one thing I told our residents is if you just give us an opportunity, hear us out, trust us a little bit, let's see if we can identify some short-term solutions to provide the relief. But you hit it right on the head is these are short-term solutions that will provide relief, but they are in no way a substitute for that long-term solution that we need in that area. And so I'm very thankful for your all efforts and your willingness to sit down with the community, make sure they feel heard. I always joke that my district seems to have the largest population of traffic engineers in the area because when you're sitting in traffic for 30, 40 minutes, you start trying to find different solutions. And so I'm really excited about this. I would urge my fellow committee members to please support it because it is so needed there. It's long overdue for these folks. And this is going to make such a significant impact. I know it says just a minor improvement, but in reality, you're talking about kids being on school on time. You're talking about increased access for our first responders in the area. And ultimately, you're talking about folks being able to spend more time at home and less time on our roadways. So that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, council member. And to have 175 to 200 people show up shows the significance of this project and the congestion and all the comments that they brought to it. Did I see another? Thank you, council member Garland.
I just want to say, Mr. Cho, thank you for your presentation, and the information and the details were very helpful. I'm new to this committee, so I love the details that were up there, but I just want to say I really, really appreciate the outreach that that you made to the community and to the local municipalities. I think that's so incredibly important. So I love the numbers, as was just mentioned, but I just want to say thank you. I'm really impressed.
Thank you, Mayor Osborne.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Great presentation. And I just, again, thank you, MAG, for setting the money aside for these kind of quick hits that we can do to take care of some real traffic snarls. I've driven through that, or I've crawled through that, I guess, a couple times, and it is a really, really difficult corridor to navigate. And these improvements, the infrastructure improvements will be very important. Are these coupled with changes in signal timing and creating maybe a smarter corridor that way?
Yeah, good question. Chair Wheatley, members of the TPC, absolutely. So we work with ADOT with every time there's improvements made, we make sure they coordinate with City of Surprise and everybody else. We look at traffic signal timing. They go to the 10th degree to make sure that everything is synced every time there's an improvement made in the area.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Hopefully this gets that and they follow through completely on it. I think that helps it. That's not the fix. It's definitely the infrastructure and additional lanes. But timing and the smart signals and the detection systems go a long, long way to keeping things moving quick. So, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? Yes. Councilmember Caputi.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I as well am amazed at how many people you got to show up. 200 is, incredible. And I would just say that I hope you're using that opportunity to explain to people how important it is that how 479 passing, translates to their daily life. Because I think for a lot of folks, there's a disconnect. We're so determined that proposition pass. And for most people, it's sort of out there. It's not specific. And it would be great if you could make sure that when you have people in front of you, that you're showing them this is how it makes their lives better on a daily basis, because that's very impactful, and it's a great opportunity to speak directly to the public. So that's my only comment.
Yeah, Chair Wheatley, members of TPC. Yeah, great comments. So at this meeting, we had roll plots laid out on the ground, like 10-foot roll plots. We had about 15 stations with different boards. And we did talk about Prop 479 projects coming in the area. So,
I just know that's my own frustration with folks. They just don't get, the translation. So
yeah,
again, great opportunity.
We really took our time at that meeting to sit down, as the council member stated, to have that conversation with them, explain the history of Prop 479, what's been done in this area to date and stuff. So we really made sure that everybody's voices were heard during this process.
Great. I appreciate that. And I had comments similar to that, just recognizing election is 3 weeks away at this point, and using every opportunity to highlight the significance. While these are great minor improvements, the significant improvements will be constructed only with successful passage of Prop 479. So again, just always using that to highlight what Prop 479 is bringing to the region and in our communities. Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think the minor changes that are being made shows how great Stewart Mag is of the funds they've already been given. And I think that even being able to hold this in reserve to get this done as we await the election and seeing where Prop 479 will go. I thought the highlight for me was being able to take the travel times and reduce them so much. Time means so much to everybody throughout the entire area. So I'm thankful that you had so many people come out, and being able to make these changes, keep somebody off of the road for, 9.8 minutes, being that precise and telling them, hey, we're cutting this time that you're going to be here down. That's very impactful to our residents who have to travel throughout the county to have great employment and be able to enjoy things. And thanks again, Mag, for being a wonderful steward of the funding so that we can continue to move the Valley forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. With no other comments or questions, prior to voting, there is the opportunity for members of the public to comment. I have not received any request for this agenda item. Staff, have we received any written online comments for this agenda item?
Thank you, Chair. We have received no online written comments for this.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion. I move to approve $4.2 million from the Freeway Life Cycle Program minor improvements allocation to the next phase of the interim improvements at US 60 and Loop 303.
I second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Haney, a second by Councilmember White. And we will have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras, unmuting their audio. Great job. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. And can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? That does pass unanimously. And please leave your cameras on for just a moment so staff can take a roll call. Great. Well done. We will move on to the Diamond Grind Pilot Program expansion, the quarterly update. This item is on the information and discussion and will be presented by Arminta Singed, the Transportation Policy Initiatives Program Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of Transportation Policy Committee. I'm here today to provide the quarterly update on the expansion of the Diamond Grind Pilot Program. Before I get into the actual update itself, I'll spend some time just reviewing what that pilot program was and what led to that expansion. And then I'll get into the update, which provides an overview of all the Diamond Grind activities underway over the last quarter between July to September 2024. So the Diamond Grind pilot program. Before Diamond Grind was looked into as a surface treatment on our regional freeway network, the standard freeway pavement surface treatment was called rubberized asphalt overlay. The issue with the overlay is that by about 2019, much of that existing surface had been deteriorating as it was past its useful life. This was largely due to the fact that there was no dedicated funding source set aside for its capital replacement, and the only capital replacement that did occurred as a scope element as part of our regional freeway program project improvements. And so as a result, MAG and ADOT looked into some cost-effective, concrete-based alternatives to that overlay that would provide similar benefits. And so that's where Diamond Grind came into the question. So what really is the difference with Diamond Grind in comparison to that rubberized asphalt overlay? Well, I'll just walk you through the typical design of our regional freeway pavements. First, you have a layer known as the subbase, which is really that compacted soil. On top of that, you typically have another layer known as the aggregate base, which is graded stone material, or at times can be asphaltic concrete. Then finally, on top of that, you've got a thick layer of Portland cement concrete pavement, and then that rubberized asphalt overlay would be overlaid at the top. Now with Diamond Grind, instead of having that top thin layer of overlay, what you have is diamond blades, that directly implement grooves, thin grooves into that concrete surface. And so MAG and ADOT came back and recommended assessing Diamond Grind as an alternative to the MAG Regional Council, and that was approved as a pilot program back in June of 2020. The scope of that pilot included assessing Diamond Grind by implementing it on 3 pilot projects that were part of the Regional Freeway program. And it would be the performance of that Diamond Grind treatment would be assessed based on 3 approved evaluation criteria that are shown here on the slide. They include ride quality, life cycle costs, and then also public acceptance of that concrete-based alternative. The 3 pilot projects in order of implementation are also shown here on the map, and they include the section on Loop 101 Price between Baseline Road and Loop 202 Santan. They also include the section on Loop 101 Pima between I-17 and Pima Road. Those 2 segments have now been completed. And then finally, there is a 3rd pilot project that is currently under construction on Loop 101 Agua Fria between 75th Avenue to I-17. So throughout the duration of the pilot program, in addition to those 3 criteria I had just mentioned, there were several other evaluation efforts also completed. So just to provide a little bit of background on each of those, ride quality I had already mentioned, but that is looking into the smoothness of the road and then also the friction between the tire and that pavement surface, which is important from a safety perspective, particularly during our monsoon seasons. Then when we looked at life cycle costs, what we looked at was the cost of capital replacements and maintenance practices required for both of those surface treatments over its estimated useful life. Then we also tracked and incorporated the public feedback received as these different segments of Diamond Grind came online. Part of that included looking at the traffic noise impact, and that's really looking at different sound levels, the pitch of those sound levels, and then how that noise changed over a set duration resulting from implementing these pavement surface treatments. We also, in addition, looked into the disruption to the roadway user, and what I mean by that are lane closures required for the different maintenance practices that have to be constructed to maintain that road in good quality. And then finally, one of the last things we did was a peer review where we looked at best practices implemented by our peer regions. And so now I'll summarize all the different results we found looking into those different evaluation criteria. So from a ride quality perspective, both Diamond Grind and rubberized asphalt initially provide very high levels of smoothness as well as friction. However, with Diamond Grind being a concrete-based treatment, that remains consistent as Diamond Grind ages, whereas with rubberized asphalt, those high levels start to trend downwards and they're further worsened by the different maintenance actions that have to be taken. With user disruption, when it comes to maintenance practices to maintain Diamond Grind in good quality, those maintenance actions can be taken in aggregate and they can be planned ahead of time, so you can plan for those scheduled closures and they occur less frequently. With rubberized asphalt, you have things like cracking or rutting, raveling, potholes. There has to be immediate action taken to address those. And much of the time they require lane closures to address those. So they occur much more frequently and require immediate lane closures to address those. Then from a noise impact perspective, rubberized asphalt does initially provide the best benefits in terms of traffic noise abatement. But similar to the ride quality and friction, with rubberized asphalt, that diminishes over time and is further worsened by those maintenance actions. Diamond Grind, on the other hand, it initially provides not as good, but almost as good traffic noise abatement benefits as rubberized asphalt overlay does, and then similarly just remains consistent. From a cost perspective, rubberized asphalt was found to be on average about $1 billion more between 2025 to 2050. The real reason behind this is that estimated useful life. Rubberized asphalt on average is estimated to have a useful life of about 10 years, whereas with Diamond Grind, it's closer to 15 years, oftentimes can go out to even 20 years. And so the costs that you have to invest to replace and maintain that Diamond Grind just occur less frequently over the life cycle. And then in terms of public feedback, initially with the first pilot project, Diamond Grind received negative feedback, but then as other Diamond Grind projects were completed, they received positive or neutral feedback. With rubberized asphalt overlay, it was the opposite case where it received initially great feedback, and then as it aged and became in worse and worse condition, it received that negative public feedback. And then when we conducted the peer review, what we found was there is no other region in the nation that does what we do in terms of our regional freeway pavement design. So just the bottom line there is that Diamond Grind outperforms rubberized asphalt in nearly all categories, including in terms of life cycle cost. And so back in October of 2023, we came back and we provided an overview of all these different findings to Transportation Policy Committee. And because of the support received there, we took it forward to Regional Council. We took an action forward to Regional Council in November of 2023, requesting to expand the pilot program. And that approval was received. And as part of that approval, there were 4 main components. The first component was that we would, moving forward, implement Diamond Grind on all regional freeway program projects where feasible. We would also continue studying impacts to Diamond Grind, including a couple of specific study efforts that were underway. We would also initiate efforts to continue monitoring the long-term performance of Diamond Grind, specifically as it aged in our region. And then as part of that effort, we also wanted to ensure that every application of Diamond Grind throughout the region was performing consistently. And then finally, we also said that we would come back and provide quarterly updates to policy committees. And so that's brings us to where we're at today. So this quarterly update is now the 3rd installment of these updates since that expansion was approved. And it covers the period of July to September 2024. Here are all the different efforts that were underway during that period, and they include a couple of different efforts that are looking into or that are specifically implementing Diamond Grind on different segments of the freeway network. And then in addition, there are 2 active study efforts that were underway. And then finally, there were a couple of long-term performance assessments also underway, including a regrind work on that Loop 101 price corridor. But before I get to that, I'll just quickly touch on each of these elements and then end with the Loop 101 price regrind overview. So first of all, on this map, what you're seeing here are all the different Diamond Grind projects, whether it was part of that original pilot program, whether it's being constructed as part of a regional freeway program project, or if it's a project that's funded either through ADOT or the state legislature. So a similar map was provided as part of the last update in August, and largely these projects remain the same. One new addition you see on here is an ADOT-funded maintenance project on Loop 202 Santan between Val Vista and Williamsfield Road. And then another effort that is currently underway is looking to update the freeway pavement conditions as of the current time frame. And so previously I had mentioned that there was no dedicated funding source available for the capital replacement of pavement services. The discussion, just as part of the item earlier of the importance of the passage of Proposition 479 in the Regional Strategic Transportation Infrastructure Investment Plan that is partially funded through Prop 479, there is an allocation that's set aside to directly address these needs. And so what we're doing as part of this refresh is just looking to update the latest conditions so that that can help inform how this set-aside funding should be allocated based on where the priority needs are. So previously, MAG and ADOT had completed this effort to show conditions in 2020. And so that just needs some updates to reflect, for example, some of that ongoing work that I had just, or completed work that I had just shown on the map before. So to even give you a further example, that segment that's currently under construction on Loop 202 Santan between Val Vista and 101, before construction, this was what the pavement looked like, and it would have been categorized in poor condition. After construction, it will no longer be in poor condition, and so that will be one of the updates made here. Moving on now to our two active study efforts. The first one that's currently underway is a study that's looking at the impact of diamond grind on the regional urban heat island effect, especially in comparison to the impacts of rubberized asphalt overlay. This is being conducted in partnership with ADOT, and it's being led by a team at Arizona State University. So as of September, the project team had just completed their 3-month continuous data collection, and efforts are currently underway to complete the analysis of that data. The second active study effort, the Freeway Noise Analysis Study Phase 2, as I had shown prior, there is one last pilot project, original pilot project, that has yet to be completed. And this project allowed a unique opportunity where we could go in and collect noise data before and after the construction of diamond grind. The first phase was actually completed as part of, or during when the program was still in its pilot phase back in 2021, and it focused on the other two completed diamond grind pilot projects. And so with this effort, we're focusing on that third pilot with Loop 101 Agua Fria. Not only are we collecting data from before and after construction, we're also collecting data under different atmospheric conditions, which is known to have an impact on traffic noise. And so there's a total of 4 planned measurement phases. As of September, 2 of those had been completed, accounting for pre-construction data under both the winter and summer conditions. And then finally, a new effort that's being initiated by ADOT is an ongoing monitoring effort looking at ride quality on an annual basis. As part of this, ADOT will be going out annually and collecting ride quality data using this vehicle that you see on the slide here, on an annual basis on all diamond ground surfaces completed to date. And then that data will go through a year-over-year analysis to reflect how diamond grind performs as it ages. And so as of September, they had completed all preparations to go out there between the October to November timeframe, and they'll do this every single year during this exact same time frame, and I believe actually they're out there right now in the midst of this work. And then finally, this brings me to my final update for this quarter, which is the work that was just completed on the Loop 101 price corridor. One of the things I had mentioned is that as part of assessing the performance of Diamond Grind, we also wanted to ensure that Diamond Grind was performing consistently in every instance that it was applied throughout the region. And so one of the questions that was still outstanding when we had this original discussion back in October 2023 with TPC was, why is Loop 101 price getting different feedback than any of the other Diamond Ground sections had received to date? And so to back up a little bit, the section on Loop 101 price between Baseline Road to Loop 202 was the very first pilot completed in fall of 2020. Once it was completed, it received a significant amount of public feedback regarding traffic noise concerns. To date, it's been the only one that has received that level of feedback. So MAG and ADOT went back and looked into perhaps what was causing this issue specific to this corridor. And the only visible evidence that we were able to point to was something known as transverse tines, which are really these horizontal grooves that are known to cause tire whining or essentially emit a high-pitched noise. So, as part of the approval to expand the pilot program and ensure that consistent application, MAG and ADOT agreed to go back and remedy this and regrind that corridor to remove any evidence of those transverse tines. And so funding for that work was actually approved earlier this year by the MAG Regional Council in February 2024. ADOT then completed the work over a 5-month period between April to August 2024. And what you see here on this clip is that corridor going from a location where it still has that overlay to the Diamond Grind section post the regrind work. And since that work has been completed as of August 2024, ADOT has not received any public feedback regarding traffic noise concern. Here's a close-up again. On the left-hand side, what you see is the corridor after it was the first Diamond Grind was implemented. And then what you see on the picture next to it is that same corridor after the regrind was completed in August 2024. And then as part of this regrind work, we also agreed that we would assess any resulting changes that occurred, specifically focusing on traffic noise, both the levels, the sound levels, and the pitch of that traffic noise, since that was the primary concern with the initial implementation of Diamond Grind here. So I'll walk you through these results, but first I just want to put some context into what you're going to be seeing here. I'll show the results on this graph, but here on the y-axis, what you have is sound levels that are measured in decibels. And then on the x-axis, you have frequency. It's measured in hertz. And what that represents is the pitch range of those sound levels that are emitted. So rule of hand is that under 1,000 hertz is considered the low pitch range, and then sound levels that are emitted above that 1,000 hertz are within the high pitch range. And so this green line here is showing that section of the corridor before the regrind work had been completed. And then in comparison, what you see here, this orange line, is in August after that regrind was done. And so what you're seeing are a reduction in sound level peaks in both of those pitch ranges, both the low pitch and the high pitch. And then to even put that in further context, we did this same analysis as part of the first freeway noise analysis study back in 2021 that looked into both the Diamond Grind surfaces as well as a variety of rubberized asphalt overlay surfaces. And what we found was there was a section of Diamond Grind that was the best performing section and actually outperformed rubberized asphalt in good condition in the low frequency range. So that's what the blue line here represents. And what you're seeing is the section of price after the regrind had been completed is actually performing even better than the original best performing section in that low frequency range. And just overall, on average, traffic noise levels reduced by about 3.5 decibels. 3 to 5 decibels is considered noticeable by the human ear. One of those measurement locations was identified as the best representation of collecting impacts resulting from freeway noise impacts. It was a little bit more shielded than some of the other locations from surrounding arterial traffic noise as well as frontage road noise. And that location actually showed a reduction of 5.4 decibels. So, to summarize, this section of Loop 101 Price from Baseline Road to 202 was the very first pilot project to come online. It was the only section of Diamond Grind to date that resulted in the feedback that it did. As a result, MAG and ADOT went back to remedy that and remove any evidence of those transverse tines, which were theorized to be causing that kind of result. And then based on the assessment conducted, there was a resulting improvement that came out of that. And that essentially completes one of the major components of the Diamond Grind pilot program expansion. This corridor will continue to be included as part of that ongoing monitoring program I had mentioned earlier, but otherwise, this effort has been completed. And so in terms of next steps, what you can expect is an update on activities currently ongoing in this period, so between October to December 2024. That'll touch on some of the things that I had mentioned earlier in my presentation, including data collection efforts on that monitoring program, any of the study analyses that are available with the Urban Heat Island or the Freeway Noise Analysis Study Phase 2, and that update can be expected in January of 2025. So that completes my presentation today, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. You know, you really had me at $1 billion less, Arminta. That's where you had me. But really, it does check all the boxes. And so I appreciate these quarterly updates. Great results on the price regrind. That's fantastic. Again, highlighting Prop 479, but recognizing that $600 million for capital pavement rehab needs are funded in part with Prop 479. So again, a great recognition of what those funds contribute to. I do have a comment from Supervisor Sellers.
It appears that the surface course in the Broadway Curve project is asphalt. Can you comment on that?
That's correct. Madam Chair, members of Transportation Policy Committee, the Broadway Curve project was under construction before the pilot program expansion was approved. And so at the time, the only Diamond Grind that was being implemented as part of the Regional Freeway Program were those 3 initial pilot projects. Anything that had occurred before that or was under construction prior to that still remained or still had rubberized asphalt overlay as a scope element.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember.
Obviously very compelling in terms of cost savings and noise reduction, but I'm just curious, have there ever been any studies done in terms of impact on consumers' tires?
Madam Chair, members of TPC, I believe they haven't been done as part of one of our evaluation efforts as the Diamond Grind pilot program was ongoing, nor have they been completed by MAG specifically, but I believe there's research out there, and I'd be happy to look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments? This is on just for information and discussion, so no action needed. Thank you again for the presentation. Next on the agenda is for information discussion. It will be presented by Haidong Zahu, Deputy Transportation Director, Transportation Modeling.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TPC. I appreciate the opportunity to provide some background information about the MAG travel demand model, its applications, and how it serves you guys, serve the member agencies. What is a travel demand model? It is a package of mathematical equations and software packages, and it predicts the travel choices people make and calculates how those trips will affect the transportation systems. It tells us how people will utilize the transportation facilities and how they respond to changes in different situations. So the travel demand model has a broad range of applications, from transportation planning to policy to environmental analysis. And then on a daily basis, models like ours also informs the regional partners on the design and construction of new roadways, new lane additions, transit service expansion, all those things. Our model covers an area a little bit over 16,000 square miles. For modeling purposes, it covers the entire Maricopa and Pinal counties and portions of Yavapai and Gila counties. Just to put things into perspective, this area represents about 30% larger than the entire state of Maryland. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it is. So in our 2023 Horizon Year model, we include about 5.5 million population. And in the 2050 model, we have about 7.7 million. The MAG travel demand model has many sub-models and procedures. The main part is called the activity-based model, ABM in short. It predicts the personal travel within this region, like driving to work and sending your kids to school and goes out for lunch, all those travels related to those trips. The MAG ABM has been recognized nationally and internationally as one of the most advanced travel modeling tools. So the tour-based truck model is also another very important element of the MAG model. As its name suggests, it simulates the truck trips based upon tours, where the trucks depart from their depot in the morning and travel to different destinations throughout the day, throughout the region, and eventually return to the depot. Think of maybe Amazon's trucks as a good example. Our model also has smaller components that deal with like airport travel and external trips. Basically, the trips coming and going out of this region. In the next couple of slides, I'll talk about the inputs to the model and its output. The social economic data is actually one of the most fundamental and important inputs to the model. And through the MAG committee process and in collaboration with all the member agencies, essentially, MAG produces socioeconomic input, the projections actually every 3 to 5 years for regional council's approval. MAG also maintains meticulous modeling networks to reflect the transportation investments. The development of those networks will not be possible without input and the staff collaboration from all of your agencies. And then to update and to build and to update the model, we also need a lot of household survey, like the survey data, to inform us the latest travel behavior. And also we need a tremendous amount of traffic data to validate the model and to make sure the model does the right thing. Our model produces a lot of very useful information, such as travel demand, which basically related to the trips people make, such as the origin and destination information. But the network impact is actually the most sought after information from the member agencies. That includes the volume and speed, any of the congestion informations. So we provide the support to all of you guys for your development mostly through all these products. And the vehicle miles traveled, VMT and VHT, those are among the top indicators for system level performance. We also provide forecasts for other modes like public transit or bike and ped, all those things.
Just to put this in perspective for you, so for those of you who are elected officials and you sit in your meetings and there are zoning cases about this project or this development, and there's arguments back and forth about it's going to create this much traffic. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. The baseline source of truth that they're arguing from is this model. So that is creating the baseline of discussion for will it or won't it impact the traffic as you're trying to decide with your residents. How much does this apartment complex, large subdivision, impact the traffic around us? So this is a fundamental to what you're going to hear in your weekly, monthly council meetings, which I know are very fun. They have those discussions, aren't they?
Always.
Thank you, Ed. On that note, we do receive a lot of requests from the member agencies, and our modeling teams have been working on those. About 1 to 50 of modeling and data requests per year that we receive. So about every 2 days, we complete a request primarily for MAG, member agencies, and ADOT. And we provide data and insights on a variety of projects with the development, that's one thing, and from as small as the intersection improvement study to a complex master plan update, we do provide our services. So I did spend a little bit more time to talk about the activity-based model. It is to simulate people's travel behavior in detail. As in this simple example, we simulate this person's entire daily itineraries from the morning when she carpooled with her kid and drop off the kid to school, then drive along to office to work. Then during lunchtime, she walked out, she took a short walk and grabbed a bite. And near the end of the day, she drove back home with a stop at a grocery store. And these are, for both you and me, these are the travel decisions we have to make every day that have impacts on our transportation system. So under the guidance of FHWA and FTA, our model goes through extensive peer review processes. And the latest one that was conducted was in December 2018, where the peer review panel, which is a group of national leading experts from academia, peer agencies, and consultants, as well as, of course, the federal officials. They spent 2 days here at MAG scrutinizing the MAG ABM. And they went over everything from the assumptions, methodologies, implementations, documentations, as well as the model results. After that, we spent a lot of effort to address the peer review panel's comments, conduct additional analyses, and also enhancing the model with new features. In 2020, the peer review panel unanimously recommended the ABM as the model record for MAG. So since 2021, about 3 years ago, the model has been part of the official MAG model that took on many important tasks. One of the most notable comments or compliments from the peer review panel was about the quality of the model results. So our model does go through rigorous validation process to ensure its accuracy. The 2018 base year model has been validated against multiple sources of data, such as the actual traffic counts and commercially available speed data and origin destination data. Using the traffic volume validation as a result from all those 1,000 plus count locations that are where we collected counts in the previous count effort, a very high level of accuracy has been achieved.
So going back to my example, when the model says something, this would demonstrate that you can depend that the model is very close to the real experience. And that's important, right? Because sometimes you'll have the neighbors, whoever will say, well, how do I know this model is true? And without bringing Haidong in to give them a 30-minute lecture on it, you can be assured that there's been all this validation to say the model is as accurate as it can possibly be without actually being people doing the traveling. So that's really important for your confidence in the numbers that your folks are using in modeling, reflecting as close as we can to what is going to actually be experienced.
Thank you for saving me 30 minutes, Ed. But we spend countless hours just to make sure the model does the right thing. That's just, every time there's a model update, we do those we just go through extensive effort to make sure, we meet the expectation of the users. So our modeling team has been, actively updating and enhancing the model. So our current goal one of the goals for next year is to make 2024 the new base year. As you heard what I said, 2018 was the base year. And after COVID, it's a long overdue effort. It's going to make it 2024 the new base year. Apparently, we're going to need some observed data. And we have received the 2023 onboard survey results from Valley Metro. You probably heard of in different channels. And but we do need a few more. So we have a household travel survey going on, which we'll complete in about 2 to 3 weeks because we're reaching our target. And we also have the ASU student survey going on. And at the same time, we are laying some groundwork to do for the ABM recalibration by conducting preliminary analysis on the survey record we've received so far. And we do have a plan also to do a complete recalibration of our truck model, which include heavy and medium and light trucks. The second half of the 2024 traffic counts will be on the way soon. So after that, we'll be getting some new traffic counts. And with those, we'll be able to do a comprehensive validation to the model. We're also actively incorporating the new travel behavior and traffic patterns brought by the ever-changing trends and technologies. So by now, our model is able to include all of these through different modules of the model, but we'll make sure to keep the model up to date based upon newly available observed data and new consensus from the industry while the future is being shaped out. To wrap up, the model is a crucial tool for the support for the air quality conformity analysis. It also produces important data and insights to support the decision making for our transportation investments. Last but not least, the model supports your local efforts on a variety of projects, including the development impact assessments. So these are the areas we can provide insights and services to you and to all the member agencies. And these are the area we can add values. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Haidong. We appreciate the presentation. And there truly is a lot to brag about that MAG does well. And this is one of the areas that I love to rave about. And as we know, MAG's regional travel demand model, it's one of the most sophisticated, one of the most technologically advanced in the entire country. And so I think that's important to highlight as it impacts our own communities and what truly a powerful tool it is for us as we're looking at transportation improvements and our own transportation system. So you do great work and appreciate the update. I'll open it up for any comments or questions for Haidong. Very thorough. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Again, for information and discussion. So we will move on. A legislative update. I understand there is no legislative update today. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? Yes, Supervisor Sellers.
Yeah, I'll just mention quickly that when I leave here today, I'm driving to Prescott for the World Transportation Summit. It's something that's well attended by our state legislature. And just so everyone knows, that group is very supportive of Prop 479. They understand that it's a statewide issue, not just a Maricopa County issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. With that, our next meeting of the Transportation Policy Committee will be held on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. Thank you.